call your operator.
Have no fear, fellow citizens. The Mediator is here.
Good morning and welcome to this week's edition of The Mediator with me, your host, Brian West, here to give you the top 8 headlines and developing news stories that made it this week. Now, as usual, I'll give you the top 8 local headlines and developing news stories that made it first, followed by a movie clip, a skit, a trailer, or something that's going on in the community, or maybe some pictures. And then I'll give you the top 8 international headlines and developing news stories that made it this week, folks. So let's waste no time. Oh, yeah. 2024. Let's get to it. Story number 1. Sci-Fi Museum in Trumbull County. Trumbull County Historical Society's board approved the purchase of a 4-story building at 410 Main Street, that's Southwest Warren, for $275,000. The money used for the purchase came from the American Rescue Plan funds, thus showing again how effective the funds have been put to good use. That's why story number 1 made it this week. Story number 2. 2024 budget in Canfield has been approved. Canfield trustees have approved a temporary 2024 budget that includes $1,240,980 in road paving projects. Canfield has stayed in the headlines due to zoning issues and school levies. That's why story number 2 made it this week. Story number 3. What will sports gambling do? It appears that Ohioans have now turned to sports betting according to a 2022 Ohio gambling survey that was conducted before gambling was legalized in the state. Now, we got the story in is the number of calls received by those in need of help with gambling addiction. Thus kind of shuffling this around, showing you why this story got in. It's not because of the gambling, but it's because of the calls. Now, the Ohio Problem Gambling Helpline, the Ohio Problem Gambling Helpline received 1,492 calls in January of 2023. Now, that is 3 times higher than 456 calls received in January of 2022. Now, this is according to PGNO. Stumbling a little bit. The story is still developing. So that's PGNO. They're saying that this is what's going on, thus getting the story into the top 8. That's why story number 3 made it this week. Story number 4. The final payment. Officials in Youngstown have something to celebrate. According to a report published December 30th by David Skolnick, the city has made its final payment Tuesday on an $11.9 million loan to the city that the city took out in 2005 for the Cavelli Center. Now that the building is paid off, the city can now put money into the building for upgrades. That's why story number 4 made it this week. Story number 5. $708,000 tax check in Girard. The city of Girard received a $708,000 tax check from Valeric. What got this story in is the fact that this is the highest return amount officials have ever received from the company. The income sharing agreement with Youngstown from Valeric was also mentioned in this local report, thus making it getting into the top 8. Big headline. Story number 6. Another education shuffle in Youngstown. Youngstown is doing it again. They're making changes, and eventually it will rub off on their students and staff in the long run. Now, in an article published January 4th in the Vindicator by David Pompley, he reports on how some students and teachers in Youngstown will be moved to different buildings affecting the west and the south side because they're moving the students to different buildings. So they're saying that the students from Kirkmere Elementary, they will go to Vonley Rogers Elementary and merging them into a building that now houses Cheney Middle School. Now, it doesn't end there because it says that Cheney Middle School students will be relocated to Vonley. Now, this move will not only affect students, but it will also affect staff. The article succeeds at giving a brief explanation by sharing one of the teachers' points of view. Now, this story is still developing. Point of view of the teachers. That's why I made it this week. When you're messing with the teachers, you mess with the students. When you mess with the students, you mess with the teachers. Big. Story number 7 and the top 2 local headlines and developing news stories that made it this week. Story number 7. Moving on up, folks. 2024. The first story is in 2024. Whew, can't beat it. Woo-wee. Story number 7. Earthquake in Ohio. Ooh, man. That could include some insurance bills. That's why the story always made it to the top. Because when you have an earthquake, that means insurance could go up or you could be losing some insurance. CBS News reports that a magnitude 2.3 earthquake was detected in Madison, Ohio. That's the largest earthquake. Well, that's not the largest. The largest earthquake ever to hit the state was a magnitude 4.8 in 1823. That's why story number 7 almost made it to the top this week, because when the land starts shaking, people start breaking. Big hit. Story number 8 and the top local headline and developing news story that made it this week. Give me an M. M. You got your M. You got your M. Just to save some money. What does that spell? Mediation, baby. Hoo-wee. Story number 8, top story. $63 million in drugs seized in 2023 in this area in Ohio. Whew. That's a lot of drugs. Now, if you did not know, in 2023, the Ohio Organized Crime Investigation Commission confiscated more than $63 million in illegal drugs. The local report published December 30th has some staggering numbers on how many types of drugs and guns have been taken off of the streets, thus making this a top story. If you also want to check out an interview on the website, I have there's an interview that's posted with somebody who did 18 years because of he had some drug charges. But check out the interview. He kind of reveals some things that take place in the life of drug dealers and those buying the drugs. Well, folks, those are our top 8 local headlines and developing news stories that I made this week. I'll be right back with the top 8 international headlines and developing news stories. Shout out to Kareem and his mother Deb. They watched the show and they stopped to the store, showed me some support. They even showed up to the Christmas thing. I had to shout them out. So we'll be right back here on the Mediator with me, Brian West. Thank you, Kareem. That meant a lot to me.
Tune in and don't forget to subscribe to Method 8 Inc. YouTube channel. You can also watch free public entertainment. And don't forget to show some support by visiting www.method8inc.com by buying something, clicking something, watching something, or just reading something. You can also sponsor a program as well. That's www.method8inc.com. Buy stuff, watch stuff, or read stuff.
What does Method8Inc.com Media Center have that I need?
Small prints, event consulting, photography, business consulting, technical consulting, entertainment consulting, fundraising advice, event videography, movies, news, publishing, media, books, entertainment, acting, broadcasting, public relations, access to the visual and performing arts, ink and black ink refills, audio recording, graphic design, theater, minor computer and cell phone repair, and they're located at 5648 Market Street in Boardman, Ohio from 10 a.m. until 6 p.m. every Monday through Friday. The list goes on and on.
Method8Inc.com. Buy stuff, watch stuff, or read stuff.
Oh yeah! And yes, we are chipmunks.
Aunt Tasha, she said that you can be dumb and still make a lot of money.
Don't be deceived, okay? Just get the work done. Get your work done, graduate, you'll be successful. Don't be deceived. I told you that. Now hit the books.
Mom's not coming back, is she, Dad?
What test scores again?
Every teacher is in here day and night, and it's not our fault.
Uriah aced her random proficiency test because you helped her. She's the first student in this city's district to ace that test.
So did he pay?
No, the pool only paid half.
Apply the pressure.
Hey, get that mess out of here!
Titi, you picked this district, Titi. I'm going to Puerto Rico. Me voy a Puerto Rico, Titi. Cálmate. Calm down. ¿Cómo querés que me calme? How am I calm down? You had us come here, Titi. How can I protect myself? That's all I need for you to help me with. How do I protect myself?
Oh, they're not going to hurt you.
If this is what I get for being a good student and acing a test, I'd rather have failed.
I never told you that being good would be easy.
Clear target, cannot miss.
Home for his little girl. Take me.
They're in danger.
I won't tell you how this is going to end, Laura, but my history professor once told me, in order to prevent a genocide, you first have to kill the dictator.
economy. Welcome back, welcome back. Now it's time to get to the top 8 international headlines and developing news stories that made this week, folks. We are talking money in 2024. I did not know that men had to pay, they almost have to pay $700 in child support, even if they don't have the money. I did not know this. And now I've been wondering why people are so serious about this child stuff and these relationships and when they have kids. I mean, this stuff is serious. Brothers showing up over their girlfriend's house, spying, getting restraining orders. Folks, this is serious. It's so serious that I've heard of stories where men have actually found out that other men was getting money from their baby's mamas from the $700 or whatever they had to pay in child support. Folks, this is serious. People are dying. Cost is going up. The cost of raising a child is going up. All these debates you see about people talking about closing legs and abortion and child support. It's so bad that some men talking about chopping it off. Ooh. I'm not going to tell you what they talk about chopping off, but I'm sure you get the picture. I don't want to pay. Ooh. Money is scary, folks. People getting in fights with judges because they want some laws that are in favor of men. There's a God of good brothers, good men, all races, who fall victim to the child support saga, folks. Good people who want to take care of their kids, want to spend time, but they got to pay. And this is money that they do not have, folks. And with things going up, the story adds to another deep topic in the Chronicles of Mediation. Whew. Let's waste no time, folks. Let's get to it. Story number 1. Support for Biden is fading. Speaking of child support, an article published by MSNBC says that Biden's support is eroding among some key voting groups. This is also according to a USA Today Suffolk University polling. Black, Hispanics, and young voters are jumping off of the Biden wagon headed into the next election cycle, according to the reports. Though this story is still developing, this piece states that as of January 2nd, the Biden's approval rating is at 39% and Harris's is at 33%. It does not mention whether fathers were trying to get their kids to go to school, trying to avoid their child support payments. On top of that, it does not mention the fathers that actually care about their children. Folks, somebody has to take care of the parenting. Somebody has to make it better for families. If it's going to be a politician, could it be the Lord? Blessed God. Pray for our brothers and sisters that we could afford these child support and family payments. Because the politicians have been living in mansions in the White House while we have had to suffer. Just heating up, folks. Story number 2. What state is producing the most jobs? According to Business Insider, Texas is growing and adding jobs. The report goes on to say how Texas is outpacing most states in population and GDP growth, according to Wells Fargo. The real estate market is also in a position to recover, according to the report. In 2023, Texas experienced the 3rd fastest growth. Folks, this story is still developing as states are trying to catch on and see what formula Texas could be using. Big headline, especially in these hard economic times. Story number 3. Saving or saying no to China. Not saving China, saying no to China. Forbes has a report on how American investors are saying no to China. The piece begins by stating how Wall Street seems to have lost its former enthusiasm for China investing, showing net withdrawals from Chinese stocks and bonds. Wow. Now there are so many reasons on why this is happening at this particular time in history, but one main reason, as stated in the report, are the Trump tariffs left in place by the current Biden administration. Now the report is very informative. It also answers the main talking point on current business decisions made or being made with China. Folks, this story is still developing. This was story number 3 made in this week. Story number 4. What is a student debt strike? According to CNBC, millions of borrowers still millions of borrowers, I want to make sure I get that right, they still are not making student loan payments. The report says that 60% of student loan borrowers made a payment when the bills resumed in October. This led to an activist labeling the other 40% as a debt strike. The Supreme Court in June blocked a presidential plan to cancel up to $20,000 in student debt per borrower by the Biden administration. Now, outstanding student loan debt in the United States now exceeds $1.7 trillion. The report goes on to say how the average balance at graduation has tripled since the 1990s to 30,000 from 10,000, with some 7% of student loan borrowers now at more than $100,000. Now, this story is staying alive because the article is basically putting the ball in the borrower's hands by forcing Biden to make a move by swinging the pendulum to the borrower. If you understand what that means. Now, it's almost like saying, we voted for you to help us and you're failing, so now 40% of us are not going to pay, thus making this a top story, because either way, deals are going to have to be made if there's going to have to be some deals if they want this to be handled, because if students can't pay, somebody's going to have to pay. So it's number 4 made this week. Well, folks, those are our top 4 international headlines and developing news stories that I made this week. I'll be right back with the top 4, so don't you go anywhere. You're on the Mediator. Meet Brian West. Up right back. I'm going to schedule you back in about a week, all right? Put you on 10 milligrams. If you need any refills, you got to let me know, all right?
I didn't become a doctor to drug people.
Give up on your dream, John. You cannot cure crazy.
He's one of my patients.
No, patience! Well, tell him to stop coming here and robbing me!
Are you married? I see your ring. Yeah.
But all I know is I need you and you will need me.
Why don't you have your wedding photos up?
Well, I have my reasons for that.
No! You don't know anything about my patients, Kathy! You don't know anything about what these kids, these parents are going through out here. There's a jungle out here, Kathy! So stay your lane!
I don't have a chemical imbalance. I just want to go home.
Together, we can make magic.
Please don't leave me this way!
I'm gonna eat therapy after this! Come on, check and see if I'm okay!
Hey, Doc. Don't let me down. Because those meds, they're working.
Welcome back. Now it's time to get to the top 4 international headlines and developing news stories that I made this week. Folks, this week, we're heading into 2024. We are talking money. And we're obviously headed into Black History Month, too. So a lot of people don't know that a lot of people who fought for a lot of rights that we have today died with barely no money. Malcolm X, I don't think he had that much money. Martin Luther King, I don't think he had that much money. Even when you talk about nuns and popes and priests, some of these nuns didn't even have clean needles. So we're living in a day and age of wealth. And I get this a lot because I don't ask for a lot of money. People get upset. Brian, you better start getting what you worth. Start having people spend some money. I was like, well, What am I supposed to do? Can't force people to spend money on me. Then they get upset. Some of my people who I borrow money off, because sometimes I'll take advantage or be thankful for the grace period. Be thankful. I'll take advantage of the grace period. They'll call me up, Brian, where is our money? I say, it's coming. Give it some time. I'm taking advantage of the grace period. Even some of my Muslim friends, I say, well, in my country, they don't charge interest. I say, whoa, I'm not a Muslim. I live in America. But if I could get some loan from one of these Arab nations, it'd probably work out for them because they don't charge interest. So we're talking money and the fact that a lot of people don't have a lot of money. A lot of good people. And then you have a lot of people who have a bad resume, bad background, with a lot of money, a lot of assets. Should they say that even we talk about the last president, they talk about he had money from other countries while he was president. They was giving him money, staying at his hotels and stuff. Folks, this is serious. And in 2024, we're going to have to ask ourselves, are we going to let money change us? If you have to strip for money. People got to do some crazy things for money in America, folks. It's capitalism. People sell drugs for money. People rob people for money. People even rob their own mama for some money. Got to sing a song about it. Don't let money turn you away from your greatness. Still be great. Even if you're broke out on the street and you don't like white people, don't like black people, just find a way to be at peace while you're broke. Don't try to sell everything you see. Try to sell everything you see. Try to be everything you want. Try to invent everything you don't have. Try to see something. Everybody would do anything for some damn money. Even rob me. Get upset with me. Try to borrow money off me, and I don't have that much money. Glad I got that off my chest. Well, folks, let's waste no time. 2024, we're starting off talking money. Let's get to it. Story number 5. Play basketball for money. People do anything for money. Whew. Anything. Who is winning the war on drugs? Speaking of money, NPR says that in 2023, fentanyl overdoses ravaged the United States and fueled a new culture war fight. The report goes on to explain that for the first time in history, fatal overdoses peaked to about 112,000 deaths, with young people and black people hit the hardest. That's sad. The report is extensive. I do have an interview with a former drug dealer who did 18 years explaining how rugged the drug business is, and his last comments were focused on how he sees no end to the madness. This could prove that the world could be losing the drug war. The interview was on the website. Big headline. Story number 5. Story number 6. The border stories continue on in 2024. Border stories continue to dominate top headlines. USA Today headline. Here's one. Migrant surge at the border adds to Biden's 2024 election woes. The Daily Mail has 2 headlines. Headline number 1. Governor Abbott shipped 85,000 illegal migrants from Texas in over a year. Then there's another Daily Mail headline. More than 302,000 illegal immigrants or migrants crossed into the United States in December. Such reports continue to show the strain taking place at the U.S.-Mexico border with still no solid solution in sight. The story is staying alive and is still gaining steam. That's why it's number 6 also made to the top 2 this week. Big headline. Story number 7 and the top 2 international headline and developing news stories that made this week starting 2024 with some stories to be informed. Story number 7, the health insurance concern. NBC News has a piece stating that more than 13 million people lost Medicaid coverage this year, and Texas is mentioned in the headlines. Now, this is a long, grueling story of healthcare woes even after the COVID-19 meltdown. Now, one main talking point in the report is how in March of 2020, the federal government froze the checks so that people were continuously enrolled in Medicaid. So they did it for a good reason. And then after that, no one was dropped in the 3 years of the COVID mess. But President Biden ended the emergency in the spring. But enrollees across the countries are now getting letters. And as of December 20th, at least 13 million people had been disenrolled from Medicaid in 2023, according to an analysis by KFF. Now, and they say that in Texas is ground zero. They're saying that this is where all this is unraveling. The story is still developing. I'm trying to get you to understand what is actually happening. If you're really confused, please look this up. The health insurance concern that's taking place right now when it comes to Medicaid, because this is pretty serious. You have people who have disabilities, people who won't be able to get their medical care, especially when it comes to medicine. That's why story number 7 also made it to the top this week. Big headline. Story number 8 and the top international headline and developing news story that made it this week. First story of 2024. We salute you, top story. Story number 8. 34 trillion in debt. The Washington Post has a piece on how the U.S. national debt has ballooned to $34 trillion for the first time. President Biden has blamed the GOP tax cuts, while congressional Republicans blame spending measures passed under the Biden and other Democrats. Now, there are some very important talking points made in this report. One talking point by Bobby Kogan, and an analyst at the Center for American Progress, has found that tax cuts under President George W. Bush and Donald Trump, etc., added $10 trillion to the national debt. Folks, this story is still developing because the finger pointing has started, but the debt is still there, and somebody eventually will have to pay. If it's not my generation, it probably will be the next generation and many generations to come. Well, folks, those are our top 8 local and international headlines and developing news stories that made this week. I hope you got something out of today's program. I always get something out of doing the research. As usual, I'd like to thank all the news outlets, the journalists, the people on the front lines. You deserve all the credit. I'm just a mediator, the man navigating your story just to keep people informed. If you want to show us some support here at Method 8, it does not take much. All you do is visit the website on the screen, buy something, click on something, watch something, read something, or to sponsor a program, or stop at the store at 5648 Market Street in Boardman, Ohio, or Youngstown, Ohio, where I am. You can see my smiling face. Well, folks, I am out of here. I'll be back next week looking through over 200 or more stories just to keep you informed. Have a good week, everybody. Thank you for tuning in to the Mediator. Me, Brian West. Peace.
Have no fear, fellow citizens. The Mediator is